Hello and welcome. It's 10 a.m. on Friday, the 5th of September. You're tuned into our mid-morning newscast here on Arirang TV. I'm Mark Broome. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. The UN's nuclear watchdog says activity has been observed at a North Korean nuclear site that is consistent with an effort to restart a reactor. The EU and the US prepare further sanctions against Russia over its intervention in Ukraine ahead of peace talks due to be held on Friday. Targets would include Russia's defense industry, state-owned banks and associates of President Putin. Plus, in its first ever global report on suicide prevention, the World Health Organization says one person dies by suicide every 40 seconds around the world. But our top story this morning, satellite imagery of North Korea's main nuclear complex indicates a 5-megawatt plutonium production reactor has recently restarted. The United States says this activity merely serves to reinforce skepticism over North Korea's repeated claims that it's ready to return to negotiations. Shin Se-min has more.
In an annual report posted on its website, the International Atomic Energy Agency says it has seen releases of steam and water from a reactor at the Yongbyon nuclear complex. The latest update on the plant also quoted experts that said the North could be working on making plutonium for atomic bombs. The UN watchdog said it was continuing to monitor developments at the site via satellite imagery. The reactor site technically has been out of operation for years as North Korea destroyed its cooling tower in 2008 amid a trust-building phase with South Korea, China, the US, and other neighboring countries. In April 2013, the North said it would revive its old 5-megawatt reactor at the Yongbyon nuclear complex. Experts said then that it would take about half a year to revive the plant, but only if it hadn't fallen completely into disrepair. In January, the U.S. Director of National Intelligence said the North had enlarged the uranium enrichment facility and restarted the reactor as well, calling the moves a significant step in the wrong direction and a contrary move to the North's international commitments. The U.S. State Department said on Thursday that the activities signal Pyongyang's clear lack of commitment to denuclearization. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Washington's new chief nuclear envoy says the United States has reopened the so-called New York Channel with North Korea to discuss the issue of US detainees. Sydney Seiler called the detainment of the 3 Americans a significant obstacle to improving bilateral ties, and it looks like North Korea may have taken his words to heart this time. Hwang Sang-hee reports.
A matter of days after North Korea granted U.S. media a rare interview with the 3 American detainees, the United States said it had restarted its own diplomatic channel with the communist regime to secure their release. Speaking at a forum on Thursday, Washington's new chief nuclear envoy, Sydney Seiler, said efforts to bring the U.S. citizens home are being made through the New York Channel, as well as the Swedish embassy in Pyongyang. The so-called New York Channel refers to meetings between North Korea's UN delegation and U.S. officials. Seiler noted the 3 detainees have posed significant obstacles to U.S.-North Korea ties and urged Pyongyang to act in a humane and right way. Washington may not be alone in seeking to remove these barriers to friendlier ties. Letting CNN and the Associated Press interview the 3 Americans could be Pyongyang's latest attempt to push for fresh dialogue with Washington. North Korea has a history of using U.S. detainees as negotiating chips for talks with the United States. The latest developments come a couple of weeks before North Korea's foreign minister travels to New York City for the UN General Assembly. Attention is focusing on whether his trip could bring the 2 foes a little closer together. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
Now, Seoul and Washington will establish a combined division of their troops next year with the task of carrying out wartime operations. South Korea's defense ministry says the unit will be the first of its kind in the entire world, and it will be set up in the first half of next year and headed by a major general-level US officer. Details on the new unit's missions are not available, but officials say during wartime it would carry out special operations such as eliminating weapons of mass destruction and also conduct civil missions against North Korea. Now, in domestic political news, President Park Geun-hye is plugging ahead with her deregulation drive, calling for the removal of regulations that hinder individuals from taking part in the generation and sales of energy. At an international forum on renewable energy in Seoul on Thursday, President Park said having individuals and communities create energy markets of their own could help foster new energy-related industries. The government has been promoting new investment opportunities in the renewable energy sector in the process of trying to tackle climate change. The president also stressed the need to ease investors' concerns about the risk of trying new things, the risk of innovation, and establish an energy export model to meet global demands. Now, if you talk to any foreigner who's lived in Korea for any extended period of time, they'll tell you that shopping online can be a complicated and rather frustrating ordeal. But relief is on the way because the government is working towards changes that will hopefully simplify the entire process of buying something off the internet. Our Yulian has the details.
In 2008, the personal information of about 10 million people is leaked from an online shopping mall. Another 20 million customers fall victim in 2009 and 2010, when a total of 25 online shopping malls are hacked into. And since Koreans are required to provide their social security numbers, birth dates, and other personal info to sign up for a membership, all of it is exposed. Foreigners don't have the same problem because they don't have Korean social security numbers, but that presents another issue for them, as they're unable to shop online without such a number. To combat data leaks and increase the accessibility to online shopping malls for foreigners, the government has decided to do away with a number of measures by the first half of next year. Providing social security numbers will no longer be a requirement for Koreans when making purchases online, and foreigners will be able to purchase goods by verifying their identity through credit cards.
We are going to devise new regulations for core growth areas like e-commerce. To do so, we are going to set up a panel of people from different fields of expertise.
By breaking down the barriers to online shopping for foreigners, the government expects exports in the sector to increase to $300 billion by 2017, up from about 24 million last year. Yurian, Arirang News.
Now, for many Korean automakers, they would have been more than happy to turn the calendar over to the month of September this week, as August was a torrid month for them, as both production and export figures dropped significantly last month due to labour strikes at Hyundai Motor and Kia Motors, and also the reduction in the number of working days. The Trade Ministry says total output fell by more than 20% on year. Exports dropped by nearly 19%, while domestic sales went down 4%. Auto imports, however, went in the other direction by far, in fact, because sales of imported cars grew over 17% on year, seeing a double-digit jump for the 11th straight month. Now, starting today, good news for travellers, because duty-free limits will be raised for people coming in to Korea. The move, which is part of the Finance Ministry's tax revisions, raises the duty-free allowance to $600 from the current $400. It's the first time the ceiling has been raised in over a quarter of a century. The government is also expected to raise the limit for travellers to Korea's resort island of Jeju at the start of next year. It also plans to offer tax deductions of 30% to travellers who voluntarily report items they are carrying. But the flip side of that is that you will be hit with additional tax if you don't report those items. Well, it's time now for a look through the global headlines that are making the news on this Friday morning. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim, as always, who is standing by for us at the News Centre. Good morning, Eunice.
Good morning, Mark.
So the first day of the NATO summit has wrapped in Wales, and world leaders there are discussing a number of heavy issues, conflicts, but eyes are on this ceasefire that's hopefully in the works for Ukraine.
That's right, Mark. On the sidelines of the summit meetings, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko said he was cautiously optimistic about a truce to end the 5-month war in his country's east. He and the leader of pro-Russian rebels had agreed that they were ready to stop fighting as early as Friday. Eyes will be on a Friday meeting in Minsk between envoys from Ukraine, Russia, and Europe's OSCE security watchdog, where that peace deal is to be discussed. This as NATO members on the first day of their 2-day summit said they stood with Ukraine and called on Moscow to pull back its troops from Ukraine and end the illegal annexation of Crimea. More sanctions against Russia are set to be announced, targeting its defense industry, state-owned banks, and the associates of President Vladimir Putin. And while the threat of the Islamic State is not on the formal agenda of the NATO summit, it will dominate discussions on the sidelines. In a joint editorial piece contributed to The Times ahead of the summit on Thursday, U.S. President Barack Obama and UK's David Cameron outlined the need for an international coalition to tackle the brutal and poisonous militants, in their words, and urged states like Jordan and Turkey to join in on the effort as well. NATO Secretary General Anders Fogh Rasmussen said he would seriously consider requests for assistance from Baghdad, adding that the international community has an obligation to stop the Islamic State from advancing further. And India is on alert this morning after al-Qaeda's leader Ayman al-Zawahiri announced the establishment of Al-Qaeda India. New Delhi has issued security alerts in several states where Muslims reside. In a 55-minute video message, al-Zawahiri had said an Al-Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent would be a rescue for Muslims in Myanmar, Bangladesh, and India from injustice and oppression. Experts say the move appears to be a reaction to the growing dominance of the group's rival, the Islamic State. And over to business news now. In Europe, in an unexpected move, the European Central Bank cut its benchmark interest rate to record lows to spur economic growth and prevent the faltering Eurozone economy from slipping back into recession. The bank lowered its main interest rate to 0.05% from a previous record low of 0.15%. ECB President Mario Draghi also announced a new stimulus program to buy financial assets in private sectors in October to spur investment and growth. The ECB made its last rate cut back in June. And internet giant Google has agreed to pay out some $19 million in refunds to parents who were unfairly charged for purchases built into children's video games. The settlement was announced by the U.S. Federal Trade Commission after thousands of complaints were filed by parents whose credit cards were racked up by their children who played games like Ice Age Village and Air Penguins. Google said it revised its billing practices in March so that parents are given a choice of whether or not to require a password when their kids bought virtual tools in those games.
Said that a team of South Korean...
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. Arirang News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers $15 billion. Now, a shocking new report by the World Health Organization shows that one person dies as a result of suicide every 40 seconds. It cites mainly economic factors as the reasons for people taking their own lives and notes that 3 times as many men as women kill themselves. Now, Kim Min-ji reports.
Over 800,000 people commit suicide worldwide every year. That means someone takes their own life every 40 seconds. A new report by the World Health Organization showed low and middle-income nations accounted for about 75% of all cases around the world. It stated the most common methods of suicide range from self-poisoning to hangings to the use of firearms. The report explained that restricting access to means of suicide is effective prevention as seen in developed countries, adding that governments need to come up with stronger measures. Only 28 countries are known to have national suicide prevention strategies. By age, the WHO said the suicide rate was the highest among those aged 70 and older, and that suicide is the second leading cause of death in young people aged 15 to 29. Margaret Chan, the Secretary General of the WHO, said the report is a call for action to address a large public health problem which has been shrouded in taboo for far too long. The WHO added that another way to prevent suicide is responsible reporting by media. The report comes ahead of World Suicide Prevention Day on September 10th, which raises awareness about suicide and suicide prevention around the world. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, the world's largest Taekwondo center opened on Thursday in Korea's southern city of Muju. The huge new space will offer a variety of martial arts programs for people of all abilities and of all ages. Our Kim Yeon-bin shows us round.
Korea is the birthplace of one of the most well-known forms of martial arts, Taekwondo. So it seems only right that Korea had the largest Taekwondo center. The opening ceremony for this new facility in Muju, Jeollabuk-do Province, in Korea's southwest, was held on Thursday. Over 2,500 visitors and distinguished guests, including Prime Minister Chung Hong-won and other top government officials, attended the ceremony. Highlighting the government's efforts to make the facility a global Taekwondo mecca, 200 masters of the martial art from 16 countries were given medals for their efforts to globalize the sport.
We established the Taekwondo Center to globalize the sport and make this center a mecca. To fulfill our goal, we will offer a variety of Taekwondo programs and help globalize it through international exchange.
Local residents are also proud to see such an amazing center of sporting excellence set up in the heart of their community.
As a Muju resident, I am pleased to see the opening of the Taekwondo Center. The center was established and represents Muju, the Republic of Korea, and will be a good chance to promote the sport around the globe.
The world's largest Taekwondo center is built on over 2.3 million square meters of land, 10 times the size of Seoul World Cup Stadium, and is capable of accommodating 1,400 people at once. The center also has interactive facilities where visitors and pro athletes can hone their Taekwondo skills.
Visitors can enhance their basic Taekwondo skills through numerous interactive activities and also get to spar against virtual reality fighters.
At a cost of $240 million, the center also includes the world's largest Taekwondo arena, a museum, an experience hall, and many other points of interest. Kim Yeon-bin, Arirang News, Muju.
And TGI Friday, everyone, as we kick things off with the big match set to take place later tonight. Korea versus Venezuela in the first of the two friendly matches set to take place this month. And with a lot of changes made to the team, many fans are wondering how the team will fare against the South American team. Now, with the Taeguk Warriors taking on the 29th ranked Venezuela, interim head coach Shin Tae-yong stated that he'll focus mainly on the offense, as the 35-year-old striker Lee Dong-guk is expected to play up top for his 100th A match. But the key player in this match will be midfielder Ki Sung-young, who is expected to control the offense, as Lee Bum-young is set to start as the goalkeeper, with Chung Sung-young not being called up for the national team. Well, the Chuseok holiday is just around the corner, and many people in the nation will enjoy a nice 4 to 5 days of vacation. But for the Incheon Asian Games athletes, there is no such thing as Chuseok break. With the Incheon Asian Games 2 weeks away now, the Korean athletes competing in the big event are expected to continue training even on the Chuseok day. But according to some of the athletes, they're used to not having the Chuseok holiday off, as the National Sports Festival usually takes place shortly after the Chuseok each year. Moving on, Korea is now 4-0 in the 2014 FIBA World Cup after losing to Angola, Australia, Slovenia, and Lithuania. But now, let's make that 0-5 as Mexico thrashed Korea 87-71, ending the tournament without a single win. Now, hopefully not a confidence breaker for the team before heading into the Asian Games. And now with that shifting over to Thursday night's KBO action, the Samsung Lions shut out the Hanwha Eagles 4-0 with the Lotte Giants coming back to beat the SK Wyverns 6-4. And the Nexen Heroes crushed the NC Dinos 13-5 with Park Byung-ho becoming just the second player in history to hit 4 home runs in the game. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the two Seoul rivals square off as the Tusan Bears took on the LG Twins. And of course, going into the game here, 4th inning of the game, Oh Ji-hwan leading off the inning deep to right field, gone, and the LG Twins take a 1-0 lead. Several batters later, Park Young-taek with an RBI single to right makes it 2-0 before Lee Byung-gyu makes it 3-0 with an infield single. Stayed that way until the 6th inning. Yang Iji grounds 1 to third, but an error scores Jorge Cantu, and it's now 3-1. 9th inning, Tucson trailing 3-2. Kim Hyun-soo deep to right center, and we're tied 3-3. Now this game goes to the distance, but after 12 innings of play, it ends in a tie 3-3. And now finishing things off, NFL fans are getting excited as the 2014-2015 NFL season kicks off with their very first game of the season, as the Green Bay Packers are set to face off against the defending champions, the Seattle Seahawks. And with the kind of defense that the Seattle Seahawks have been showing in the past few seasons, they might be the favorites to defend their title. But many believe that the San Francisco 49ers might give them a hard time returning to the Super Bowl, as Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos look to bounce back from their Super Bowl collapse against the Seahawks as well. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great Chuseok holiday, everyone, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. Well, thin layers of fog have been blocking the Seoul and the surrounding area since early this morning, but we can see it's gradually burning off, whereas the other parts of the peninsula have been having a bright day since early this morning. So today's forecast to be brighter, and temperatures will be higher than yesterday, as the highs will be soaring to upper 20s to low 30s across the nation. So let's take a closer look at today's temperatures. The afternoon high in the capital will rise to 29, while Daegu will soar to 32, and Gwangju and Busan should make it to 30 this afternoon under lots of sunshine. Now for other regions, it looks like Jeju Island and Daejeon will top out at 27 and 29, while Dokdo should see highs of 28, and Kunggang reaches at 20 later in the day. Now, thankfully, weather should continue to be on our side. Sun and warm afternoon highs will dominate the peninsula throughout Chuseok holiday, and a full moon is expected to rise at 6:05 p.m. on Chuseok Day under mostly to partly sunny skies. So weather should not be a problem when you wish on the moon. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, those are the stories we have for you at this hour. For more of the latest developments in Korea, but also further afield, don't forget to check out our website, arirang.co.kr/news. If you are watching us in Korea, do enjoy the long 5-day break for Chuseok, or Korean Thanksgiving as it's also known. We'll be back at noon Korea time for Newsline at noon. Until then, goodbye.